all. Welcome to another episode of Saturday Architect. Last week, there were a couple of conversations I was having with customers and in a scenario, and whatever we are talking about is not that very clear. It's pretty hazy, I would say. Now, this got to do with it's a broad area, right? And we are trying to get it's like, let's consider as four blind men here groping the elephant. That I look at this discussion more something like that. Okay. So this is about the entire area of automation, right? What is automation? How do you do automation? Now it's kind of tricky. To give a basic thing, programming itself is automation. You're automating what humans did is developing a program, right? So you can argue that any program that is written is automation, right? Or even any mechanical device, right, that is done is automation. It's automated. Okay. So it becomes, how do you relate to the word automation itself is kind of a challenge to me. Like, let's say you take a windmill, which has been there for centuries. That is automation. It is automation of drawing water from the thing using the wind. They have automated that process. So that is a windmill is an automation again. Okay. So switching to technology, I can have at a very beginning thing, I had a batch file. If you go to the DOS prompt, okay. Or in Unix, you had SH files, right? Shell scripts. Then we moved on to additional bash shell scripts, PowerShell scripts. Then you had on the front end, if you come, so this is in the back end. Now, if you look at it in the front end, we had macros, right? Macros were there. So macros was the closest thing which happened to that. Now, parallelly, we also had the word digitization happening, which is basically whatever was done analog by humans was automated by computers. So digitization is another word which hangs around there. Then came RPA, which is like any human task that was done is done with RPA. Now, there were a lot of things like, for example, I compiled one file, built it, copied to another folder. Humans did it. Now, I did it with a script. Can we call that RPA? I don't know. Maybe yes, maybe no. Okay. Or should a tool be used? And then there is something called hyper automation. Okay. So I just so these are the different challenges that we face. Now, most importantly, as an architect, what kind of tools do we have and what is our go-to tool for that? Or is it that my first instinct is to what code should I write? Okay. Or what is the application which I will install and I will use? So these different things that is there, right? Now, in your day-to-day life, right? How do these words affect you or matter to you? What is relevant? For example, maybe a macro is not relevant to you, right? What is all relevant?
Kumar, basically automation, when it comes to automation, I always think like it is something like not reducing the effort, right? It is not like that. If you're saying to a customer that I'm doing an automation to reduce the effort, probably somebody is saying to me, my question is like, why you haven't done it so long? Okay. So what is the what are you going to give it to me for the last, like you are doing it manually? For example, if I'm running a project, one of my vendor is doing an automation, saying that this is the effort I'm saving it for a year. Probably per year I'm saving it like 30% days of effort.
Okay.
If a vendor is saying to me, my question would be, you were with the project for past 5 years and you are wasting like 150% days. Why you haven't done this till this time?
So when you say vendor, so what is the vendor?
Maybe a consulting team or my software vendor. if I'm a client and my vendor is doing it, so that is what my thought are always like. So my perception towards an automation is like it's not reducing any effort for the current work. Probably how do you do a better with the like how do you deliver it better the current work, that should be the case. For example, if I am doing a deployment, manual deployment, how do I introduce the CI/CD into it so that like my delivery quality, everything would be better.
Okay, so basically if you are telling automation is more for better quality than cost or than cost reduction, but that also happens, right?
That also happens, but the primary should be how do we achieving the better quality.
Okay,
that should be the primary target.
So when you say okay, got that point, that is as far as what automation goes. Now, is automation, do you have any, is writing a batch file automation, or would you consider, like, let's say I think you work in the integration space, right? When I do, let's say, tying up few endpoints with MuleSoft, okay?
Yeah.
Is that automation? I mean, like making two APIs talk to each other without code. Or is writing programming automation, or programming is not automation? What is your...
Oh, see, that's what my point on automation is like achieving better quality. That is what my perception towards an automation. For example, take a case like some of the products, even MuleSoft, since you are saying tagging MuleSoft, right? MuleSoft API UIs and all is not that much great.
Okay.
But for a third party developer or in-house developer, if they want to look for an API which is built in MuleSoft through the UI given by the Mule, is not that much like a better user experience. So in order to avoid that, integrating with another UI or build a customized UI using AngularJS or Node.js, whatever you wanted. So that sort of an automation, or that sort of an see, my perception towards an automation is always it goes for a quality as well as better customer experience. So
when you think automation, what would be the tools that come to your mind? So let's say you see this opportunity, right? Quality has to be improved. I have to automate it. Okay.
Yep.
What would be the top 2-3 tools that will immediately hit your mind? What will you use?
Immediately, if you're asking me, probably Jenkins would be the one thing, because it's like and then if you ask me, probably Python would be giving a details about like dashboards and other stuff, like in order to give a view on to the leadership team what we are doing it. They will get a
just a curious question. Is Python more a back-end thing? You would use it for front-end and dashboard also?
Yeah, we can build the dashboards also in Python. Yeah.
Okay.
It is like you don't see from a middleware guy, learning AngularJS bit tricky, but learning Python
is
very easy. Yeah, right.
Fair enough.
So Python dashboard, I can build it.
Okay.
So rather than that sort of tools,
so these are
probably
first two things, right? Like if I have to do some process build, that kind of a things, I'll go for Jenkins. If I have to do some front end, that kind of a thing, I will go for Python.
Yep.
Okay. And tying up applications together, what would you go for?
Again, Jenkins is a better integration tool also. It's like it has its own Python pipeline scripts. It is coming up with you can write what do you call the AND programming. So whatever the script you want to write it, like you name it, right? Batch file.
So it can be
script,
used like as a kind of no, I wouldn't call it ESB, but let's say like at the end of a particular file processing. Let's say from SAP, a file comes out, and then some small thing has to be done to that and pushed into something else.
Yep.
Like
basically,
would Jenkins serve that purpose? Is my question.
No, Jenkins doesn't serve that purpose. Jenkins is like connecting all this, all the SAP middleware, like web methods or MuleSoft, or even your UI like Python or AngularJS. You can integrate all these things. Probably it is bringing these technologies closer together, and then like making a call from one to other, and then get the output and pass it to the other things. That's it.
Okay.
Doesn't do any transformation. It can do it, but probably
it's not that
transformation is not a
So for that, what tool would you go after? So that's
what. If I want to do any DB related stuff with the transformation, I'll go for Python script or a shell script, calling from the Jenkins pipeline script, and then do all these things, get that data, pass it to the UI, whatever the format the UI is looking for.
So I was trying to get some words out of your mouth. It's not coming. So any things like web methods or ESB, those kind of tools. Also, when would you use that? I didn't want to direct you, so I didn't put those things. But let's say they were also kind of automation, right? They are automating the process between multiple applications or different business capabilities, if you look at it that way.
Yep. See, for example,
when would you use that?
For example, if it is like in the CI/CD process itself, if I want to do a deployment, automated deployment, once a code check-in is done, whenever a code check-in done, I'll get a notification in the web methods platform, and then from a web methods platform, I'll invoke my Jenkins script and other stuff. That will do the DB related stuff. And also, if I want to run any automated regression test suite, right, which I have written in a Maven script or something like that, or Ant script, that will invoke it. The Jenkins will invoke the Ant script and Maven script, and then get the output, give it to web methods, and then proceed with the further steps of the deployment. So that sort of a complex structure, I'll be bringing the middleware component also.
So can I kind of say your level 1 citizen will be level 1 tools, right? Would be Jenkins, Python, Maven, like that. Your level 2, will be, let's call it the ruling class, will be the web method or the MuleSoft. Would you look? Would it look? Can you say that it's like it's more at a higher level when you want to get those things, but really lower level things that you want, these are the tools that you would go to.
That's true. Yep.
Super. Okay. Venkat, how do you look at automation for your scale of operations?
So, as Karthik said, so we look for automation to improve the code performance, and performance in the sense reduce the human effort by testing the code, something with right now for any startup we could not automate in the day one. So there is some process will involve before going to automation. So as Karthik said, why right question he has asked, why you haven't automated for past 5 years, why you are doing it now? So that is the important question. But everyone will face this question. But as a startup, first I want to solve the problem manually. Then only I know what are the process can be automated, right? So that is the one thing. First, I need to understand the process flow thoroughly. I know the process, but it doesn't mean that whether it is works or not. Until unless in the production code only, I can able to find it out. And so different phase we use a different tools. We have started deploying. So as he said, for web methods are for ETL kind of tool. Whenever that ETL is involved, then we are using Apache Airflow. We are started using it, and
What can you repeat that again? Apache
Apache Airflow.
AppFlow.
Air, AIR. F for
Oh,
America,
Airflow.
I for,
Okay,
yeah.
okay. Any reason why you picked that tool for ETL?
One is it is open source,
Okay.
and other thing is it supports big data, because when we are scale up, we no need to depend on other tool. The same tool can be managed. And other one is it is is easy and easy for as far as my concern, compared to other tools, it is easy to deploy and maintenance.
What other tools did you compare it with?
We compared with one tool is called.
Okay, that's okay. But you compared basically free tools. Did you compare any commercial tools like Power BI?
We compared with as you said, like Microsoft Power BI and that other tool I'm trying to remember.
Okay.
It is actually.
Okay,
I'll let you know.
And was the
And for other kind of
was it the feature that made you go with Airflow? Airflow was clearly, but or was the cost part the key contributor?
Not only cost part. Airflow, it is kind of like a single tool for all your analytics and data pipeline and ETL. So for it's kind of single tool can be accommodated with all features. So that is the main reason we are going with Airflow.
Okay, got it.
And for other like automated kind of sending email and other kind of campaign, we are using the skill. So.
Okay, so this is for the flows. For the other things, you're using what? Shell scripts, is it?
Shell script.
Okay, and for anything on the for the front end fraud automation. You just said you're looking at testing and possibly exploring things, correct?
Yes. For front end, we are using we are also exploring Jenkins, and for a mobile we are using CodeMagic for a CI/CD.
Okay, got it. So Deepak, what's your thoughts on this? Like, I think for you, one advantage that you would have is you're not on the dev side, right? So you're more coming from a ops.
No, I see it from all perspectives, and I think as you've probably seen from Venkat and Karthik, automation is always very domain specific, right? It's where you are placed. You will look for automation in those areas, right? For example, Karthik is looking at middleware, Venkat is looking at the entire stack of delivering a mobile application, right? So it is always going to be domain specific. And the way I look at when you started defining automation is it doesn't really have to be anything specific, whether it is code or so. I see it in generic two ways. One is what we call as citizen automation. Other is the non-citizen automation. So citizen automation is something as simple as I create some rules in my Outlook to process mail. That is also automation, right? That is at my individual level, I will do some automation. I might write some script for myself, run it on my laptop, or use some free tool like IFTTT, or there are so many of them, right? Zapier. These are all citizen automation tools. And some of these citizen automation tools are actually fairly complex. You can do very complex things with that, almost to the level what you can achieve by specialized tools, right? Because now they have connectors built for everything. and a lot of these actually allow you to write your own connectors, right? So that is something which is, I would say, the biggest revolution in terms of automation, right? Earlier, I would not say in that sense that it is the biggest revolution, but it is the biggest impacting change in automation, right?
It's empowered more people to do automation.
Programmers always knew how to automate stuff. Programmers always knew how to do this stuff. They knew how to write a script. They can work with Jenkins. They can work with Apache, Airflow, whatever, right? So they know how to do that stuff. But it's the other people who are on the periphery, right? Who are on the periphery who need to make some of these things work. Yesterday I was speaking to one of our customers, and he's trying to automate a project workflow, right? Now, project workflow between they're trying to use an agile methodology. They're trying to implement SAP in that sense, right? So they're trying to implement SAP. They want to manage a project of SAP modules, but they want to use some agile system where they can manage the features, the epics, and all those work items, right? So they want to manage that. But now they want all these modules they have which they are identifying where to work with. The requirements are coming from SAP. They want to do it in agile systems. How do I make sure that my work items, which I do in my agile task management system, to what I'm doing in SAP? Now, what do you do there, right? So you can't write a program specifically for doing such things, right? So that is where. So this is not really citizen automation in that sense, right? So this is somewhere in the middle where two systems need to talk, but there is no. Nobody in both these systems want to work with Jenkins in that matter, right? Or they don't want to write their own script to talk to SAP on some webhook on SAP side and something on maybe Jira or Azure DevOps on the other side, right? So they don't want to do all those things, right? So that is where some of the mid-level automation, what they call as no-code automation options, have now come up, right? Where they go slightly beyond what citizen automation is targeting, but they are similar to what citizen automation is, but now they are targeted more at doing for mid-level, and even they can scale it, right? A lot of cloud providers, including Microsoft, provide some of these tools, right? So you can use something like Logic Apps, right? Logic Apps.
Or Power Automate, right?
Or you see, Power Automate is targeted at what I call as citizen automation, right?
Okay.
And at the back end, I believe Power Automate uses Logic Apps, right? Okay. So if you look at their interface, they look almost the same, right? So that is the way I see. So from the classification perspective and the effort perspective, which Karthik talked about in terms of asking the vendors why you didn't do it. Mm-hmm. So actually, usually the answer is not very complex to those questions. Since we didn't just have the time to do it, we are focused on just delivering.
You know that square wheel, circle wheel, right?
Yes.
Hey, I'm too busy to do something important. I'm very busy. I cannot do anything important.
Yeah,
I'm very
exactly.
busy.
So their answers are very.
The smile that both of them are giving kind of is a, what should I say, 100% agreement. Hey, I'm so busy, I can't do important things.
So I would advise not to ask those questions and embarrass those people because the answer is very clear. You already know the answer to those things, right? So the question what I'm more interested in is it going to be worth your while to automate something, right? So usually you will get these some kind of analysis they'll throw up in Excel sheets where they see how much effort I'm saving per transaction, and over the year it becomes so much. But you also need to see how much effort is going to do in that activity itself. And And automation code is like your application code. I would consider, if you are going to put in your effort into automation, this has to become part of your application. You cannot consider the automation as something which is outside. How now? So you have to make it maintainable, just like your code, right? So as an architect, that is your responsibility to look at it. If I'm going to put in automation, is it as good as what I will do to maintain my code, or is it should be part of your architecture. It is very valid to use some third-party integration like Airflow or Jenkins as part of your architecture. Why not? Why do you think that this is outside your architecture? This is if you're achieving some goal of let's say transforming some part of your data using a Jenkins pipeline, it is very much part of your architecture, right? Now you have to make it scalable, you have to make it workable. You cannot be running Jenkins in a box under your table, right? So all those things will apply when you start using these tools. So that is something which I would expect architects to do. That this is no longer the jugaad part, right? So this is not so automation is a lot of times automation is used quote unquote jugaad, right? Whereas I think this is
quick
very much part of what you need to do it, and you can make it really scalable. Why not, right? If you
so I think one of the I think that is actually a segue to the next part, right? As I was talking, I was just writing down the question. So it looks like it's a side thing. Okay, it's an auxiliary or an accessory to core development and core architecture. If you look at anything in automation, right, it is like a side fitting, extra fitting. Okay. So my next question will be: is it time to start looking at things like this? And you put it nicely, no code automation, right? And the best way, how do you develop code which doesn't have any bugs? Any guesses? Don't write code.
Don't use code.
Don't use code. Okay. The best way to have bug-free code is don't have code. Okay.
Absolutely.
So it's the other thing we keep joking, Deepak. The best way to keep data safe is don't store it. That is the best way to secure data. If you don't store it, it's safe. So how can you do an architecture without storing data? How can you get things done without code? Then bugs can't come, right? So if you don't write code, I mean, when I say code, it's not that some code will be there, but your team will not write code,
yes.
Right? So basically, when we say no code, we mean from that perspective, right?
Yes.
So
somebody else did it for you. Somebody else did it for you.
Somebody else did it.
You are just configuring it.
And I guess no development team today will say, I have a skills. I don't have any skills issue. I have all good developers. Everybody do their work. I don't have any coding problem. I don't have a skills problem. No architect can make this statement today, right? If he's very blessed. Okay, we all should get blessed by that person. So we will also get team members like that in our teams. Okay. Now, considering that is the reality, and also considering there are no code automation tools like Automation Anywhere, UiPath, Power Automate. I'm not biased to any one company. Okay. Maybe if they sponsor this program, I will get biased. But till then, it will be neutral. So all these tools, right, have become pretty powerful, right? For example, if I take a use case, right, I guess people who have been a part of our program, there are things like data comes from, for example, let's say I want to check something as simple as people are doing their daily journals, right? I guess Venkat and Karthik will be there. Now, if 3 people have missed it, I want them to remind them. Okay. Now, I can write a backend PHP code or a Python code which can do a mobile notification. Yes, no. Set up Firebase, do all that notification of mobile programming. I can put a developer to work on this for how long will it take roughly? Probably it will take 3 weeks for a good developer to get it to production. right? It is like checking out people who all missed it and send a mobile notification to them. Now, let's say I kind of, so my use case is very clear, right? Like Karthik, as you are telling, right? What is my use case? Why do I want to do it? Now, for this, if I'm going to use a no-code automation tool, right? Whether it's UiPath or anything, can any of you guess how long it will take to achieve this same thing? Provided the person knows the tool, how long will it achieve for them to do this?
Maximum half an hour to 1 hour, like.
Let's be generous, 4 hours. In 4 hours, that will be done in production. Now, when something will take 120 hours and something can be done in 4 hours, okay, there is a very strong case of these tools replacing programming constructs itself. Right? Your typical code that is there. That means these things which are accessories have a potential to become your core components of the architecture. That kind of means that you can actually use lesser programming skilled but more business aware people, or with that thinking, the time can be spent towards thinking about the business itself when you start using these tools. Right? So I would like to hear your thoughts around this, Karthik and Venkat. Maybe you haven't tried, but I'm just proposing something and then say what's your reaction to that?
Yeah, Kumar. See, sometimes, as I said, right, about this Python and then with the UI building in UI using Python. See, the problem for a person like me, middleware guy, I don't have a skill set on AngularJS or Node.js or React.js, which is a powerful UI build technology, right? So right now. So if I get something just to plug in this component, I'll give an input. I'll take that data from a database. I just need to create a data source and then connectivity between the tool, and then probably I'll straight away go with that. I don't need to spend my time on Python. I can learn it. That's a different thing. But for this use case, giving a dashboard sort of thing toward my leadership team, if I get a tool like this, I'll go ahead, because that will save my time. I can focus on something else more important than this. So,
sure. And I think there's a interesting thing. I'll just add something there. Now, I think once you start thinking these tools, right, it changes the way how you think. Now let's look at it this way. Does the senior management have any wish that every morning they want to look up and look at 3 dashboards? Do they have a wish? If I look at these 3 dashboards, I will have a good day. Do they really want to look at a dashboard?
Not exactly, yeah.
So what do they want to do? They want to take some decision.
Yeah, probably they will be coming to me and then asking about the details. I'll send them in a mail, or I can say it in a mail. Yeah.
So would they prefer that or looking at the dashboard?
It depends on their mood. Sometimes they want they feel like why do I need to depend on you? If I get something ready in my mailbox or a UI.
So that's a good question, right? So basically, they don't have let's ask this question. They have to depend on you means they are feeling obligated, right? Either they have to make a call which slows them down, okay, or they are feeling personally embarrassed or uncomfortable to eat Karthik's time, okay, or they are thinking, is Karthik's time really worth answering these questions? Okay. But the thing which I'm trying to get here is, let's say it's inventory level, okay. Does he want to look at a dashboard to look at the inventory level and ask the shop floor procurement guy to order something, for example, or he wants that to happen? So I come to a dashboard. So let's take an example, right? I come to a dashboard, I look at the data there, and I'm going to take a decision based on that. Is there any other purpose for a dashboard?
The purpose of this dashboard is like they want to understand the quality of the deliverables. So that is the main thing. So the dashboard is for the regression test result.
So let me put it this way: if there were no bugs, will anybody go to the dashboard?
Probably no. Yeah, they don't need to go. Yeah.
Okay. So what do they actually, when they look at the dashboard, what spurs the viewer into an action? Some red.
Yeah.
So when that red happens, why not send a mail to him? Why do they need to come to the dashboard?
True. But the mailing already there. If you look at it, the basic thing is that, right? Picture talks more than the words, right? So that is the main intention. Like if the result will be shown in red, green, blue, the graphic model light, right? So the same pattern will be shown. So if it is if the red is more than green.
Okay, I get your point. What you're telling is when they see a red, right, it becomes clear that they have to take an action. When it is in a text in an email, it's not clear. Okay.
Yep.
So there is some action that person has to take.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. But now when it is a mail, I have to read the mail, think about it, process that information, and then choose to decide what action to take. Okay. Yeah. So ultimately, I want to take action A based on an event.
Mm-hmm.
Event happened, mail came as text, I read the mail, and then I chose to take action. Okay.
Yeah.
Now what has happened? When the event happened, dashboard updates. So I'm becoming like a polling now.
Mm-hmm.
I have to keep polling the dashboard.
Yep.
Right? When I see a red, I will take action. But the real thing is, when the event is actually the problem, I want to take action A1. If you can tell me when to take that action A1 and I don't have to do either the polling or the processing, will I complain? Is my question. I won't.
Yeah.
Okay, it's something like the thing will say, something will, it will vibrate. I take the phone up, it will say, Kumaran, call Deepak and then say the code is broken. That decision is already taken for me. Ideally, I would want that thing to go to Deepak itself. I don't also want to get involved. If it is red, Deepak, please check quality code, it's become bad.
Yeah.
Now here, my case is in that case, right? Do you think a no-code automation, for example, can it check the dashboard, check the red, and call me or call Deepak? An RPA or an automation tool can do that, correct?
Yep.
So would you consider that to replace? Now, would you agree to that? Does it sound like a good candidate?
Yes. Almost 70%, 80%.
It will work, right? Now, if that is there, why does it need to read it from a dashboard? Why not look at the data itself and decide?
Yeah, if I'm going to that level, I don't need to build a dashboard. That's what I'm saying, right? So I don't need to build a dashboard. Probably I just need to connect the database and then the tool, whatever the tool.
So I think
that will do the wonders for you.
That would do the wonders for you. I think so. One of the things I was just trying to understand. This is new, okay? So it's not that. Even for me, this thought process is new. I was just validating a use case with what you were telling. So that part is, today I have a dashboard. I have something because there is no glue. There's no glue between the event that is happening, a decision taken in the human brain, and an action which has to be taken. The no-code automation tools are making it easy because it's a little fuzzy logic. It's very difficult to hard code it into a program. As Venkat was telling, right? I have to understand all the logic before I can give a spec. But this thing can become a first citizen development tool. So the people who are doing it can actually do that first level. And as architects, my job is to graduate it from a citizen automation to a royal automation, which means it could come under version control. It will become a part of an architecture like that. So I guess that sounds, I'm thinking along with you. I don't have a solution, but I think I'm very excited at that thought of looking at something like that. So Venkat, what are your thoughts? Yeah, Deepak, go ahead.
Yeah, so I was about to say that we need to think about why these things come into existence, right? Why do we really need to have these something like a kludge or the jugaad which I was talking about? Why do these things come into existence in the first place, right? My belief is the reason these things come into existence is it is very difficult for architects to imagine all the use case scenarios, right? Because you cannot cover all possible angles of how the data which your system is generating might be used for some decision making, right? And these scenarios are evolving all the time. And so one of the ways some of the teams have taken up is that this product is always in development, right? So this is like create this DevOps team. Anytime something comes in, we feed it into the DevOps team, it goes into the backlog and they churn it out month on month, sprint on sprint, they will keep on churning it out. That is one way to handle it. Other is you create this system to the best possible knowledge at this point of time and say, okay, but we leave it open for automation, right? So I think that is one important design criteria which architects can leave in their systems, which is that how do I enable my system for future open automation, right? That I don't want to close. So one is understand the limitations of my system, that I cannot predict everything the way it will be used, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a system which is open in some respects so that these third-party automation tools can come in and become that glue which you're talking about, right? So from architecture perspective, I think that is one important lesson for architects to take away, that you don't close your system to automation. Don't think that your system can do everything, right? And you leave that space and let the other glues to come and stick it, make it something different from what you imagined was.
So Venkat, how does that sound to you? Like, for example, right, I think one of the things that we take is first, I don't know what is happening, like what Deepak just said, right? I'm not clear on the process. Once I get the process clear, I will write the code for it, which is how we deal with use cases. We have to get all the specs very clearly from the business user so the programmer can understand it and do it. Okay. Or the other thing that we take is I will use a script or I will use some RPA automation or some automation. When that becomes clear, I will convert that to code, because code is long lasting. Code is stronger, right? My script is weak. At some point, I'm doing script because it's easy, but I will move it into code later. But the thought that I will use the no-code components itself as a first-class situation to meet the use case needs. How does that sound? Does that sound a possibility, or do you see challenges around that? What is?
Actually, this is exactly what we are trying to build in our current companies. So initially, what we thought is we have thought of creating a dashboard for our BFSI product. Actually, then we got to know that why can't why can't we get a tool from the market which can be easily modified in the dashboard according to the business need. So here there is no need to write code upfront. Like you don't need to depend on the developer or like any product manager. So and we can even that the leader level person can they can arrange and modify the dashboard, and you can feed it to your CEO or like someone else. It's not only decision making on the green point, I mean red point. Sometimes no, you need to aware of that where is the yellow is moving. So
Okay.
like you need to take the some decisions on yellow point so that it does not reach to red, right? So our tool should help to avoid the red instead of taking only the decision on the red, right? So
Correct.
for example, when you have a target to meet, right? So the year end you need to meet 10 million target. So for that you can't take decision on the November month saying
Correct.
that okay you should read 5 million in 1 month. So you should take decision on the like March or April itself saying that okay target is not moving our bets, right?
Correct.
So for that kind of scenario we need a dashboard. So that is like one point. And as you rightly pointed out, so for take business decision, like we should not always depend on code automation. We should pick up a tool, customize it ourselves, as you said, within a 4 hour, and it can be further customized anytime we need it. Right? It is not that so for one day I need this kind of dashboard, and another day okay I need you need another kind of dashboard, right? So we cannot every time write this script and automate keep on feeding it is the time consuming. So that point of view, like as you said, pick any tool which can support and we can customize it anytime you want it, and you can take anytime you need to decisions.
Okay, so in your case, the benefit that you see is when you use a no-code automation, it helps you keep pace with the business without the development and the development cycle, all that coming as a constraint. Okay.
Yes.
Okay, great. Interesting discussion. Any other closing thoughts, Karthik, Deepak, Venkatesh?
Kumaran, one more thing in this no code automation, right? As Deepak was saying, any automation before we started, what would be the effort to do the automation? See, that will, like when we go for a no code automation, probably that topic will be ruled out, because for example, if I am writing a Python dashboard for 1 week or 1 week or 3 days or 4 days, right? This no code automation is coming up with 1 day effort. Probably that will really helpful for me. So that is another thing I just want to add it in the no code.
Okay. So basically, it helps justify a business case very easily.
Yep.
So you can actually have more. In other words, it's like you can deliver more for less.
Yeah, that way we can say it. Right.
So there's a side effect. Which you need to consider, because all these no-code solutions are provided by some sort of SaaS provider, right? Maybe Microsoft, maybe Amazon, maybe Google, whoever, right? So these are all SaaS products, and you have to look at the scale at which these things run, right? Because if your no-code automation is consuming huge amount of time, right, on the cloud, right? So usually it should not matter too much, but at some point it will tip the balance in terms of writing your own thing. At some point.
Okay.
Right. So I'm not saying that point comes very quickly, but you need to, as an architect, you need to be aware that sometime this will tip that balance in why should we just write our own dashboard, right? Unless you are getting something really, really beneficial, that this dashboard is so dynamic, everybody's changing it on their own, and every CXO is getting their own version of their dashboard and they're manipulating it, and so it is so great, you never want to change it, right? So that is a different thing, versus you have a production floor where maybe there are thousands of users of this dashboard and you created it quickly onto this no code platform, but now this consumption of this dashboard is so high that we are paying more than what we pay for running our own dashboard, right? So I'm just making a hypothetical scenario so that you understand that there's a cost element which you need to think about, that at some point it will tip the balance.
So I think it's kind of reinforced what we keep talking about in our sessions, right? When is something good, bad? So
Yes.
you're kind of telling, like, it all looks good, but then this could be a possible problem with that. And just that you're on that, I will add another thing. When you have this mass kind of people developing their own automation stuff, then what we have is governance becomes a problem. People do the same thing in 5 different ways, right? Like, for example, let's say you want to do let's say in Venkat's case, right? It's about approving a bid. Okay. Team 1 will do it some way, Vizag will do it another way, Hyderabad will do it another way, Thoothukudi will do it in a different way. Now you have 3 automations to approve bids, because the business can do that, right? Now it works, right? It will work for them. But if let's say the Vizag guy says, I want to do the bid process, and by mistake he takes the Thoothukudi and puts it, you'll have a business loss there. Okay, so I think then the architect's problems becomes a little different. You become more like a governance guy, right? Then you start collecting these automations that happens, and most of these tools have an enterprise library. Karthik, similar to a catalog, right? So you have these automation components. So when you finish it, it gets published there. So you need to set, as an architect, your job is to have a governance process. So you start going more towards the business than the code. So you kind of say, is Vizag's bid process different? Who will be the champion for the bid process? Right? Or who is an authority on bidding? Now you start going closer towards the business. So I think that's another thing that we need to be careful.
I think that brings in the business process angle, which is probably a more wider question. And that whole business re-engineering part comes in. Then who decides the business process, right? Is it the job
actually,
of...
I think it makes it easier, because now I'm actually putting the control in the business's hands. Yeah, I'm telling there is a Vizag process, there's a Thoothukudi process. You decide which should be the company's process, right?
Yeah,
and
that I
actually,
agree.
He goes to the tool and then say, I elevate this process to the enterprise level. The developer need not be involved at all. It makes it pretty easy that way.
Yeah. Agree.
Right? Or you create another thing like South region. I will create a South region and then I will put it there. Then now literally in UI, it will be creating another folder and dragging it and drop there, which the business user can do it themselves. So we are really empowering the business users to kind of do automation. I think that way, then your job changes. You are no more king of Angular JS. Okay, or MuleSoft, or Jenkins, or Python. You have a different thing to learn.
Yeah.
Okay. So that was great. Interesting discussion. I think it's, at least for me, definitely, this is something which I've been trying to think, right? And this is actually pretty hot out there, right? It's a completely different paradigm of how we approach IT solutions and architecture solutions. And there is huge potential there. It definitely helped me get a lot more clarity, right, on how we should look at it and what we should be doing. Hope it did too for you also. Please do share whatever we are talking to others, and think about what we could discuss in the next fortnight when we come together.